28. Second summer entry, third year. Dear Journal, there was a big meeting to discuss what to do next. Nicias and Demosthenes stood up a hill. We were in our defense enclosure. Everyone did what they were supposed to do, began Demosthenes. The night raid was an ambitious plan. I take full responsibility. Now that we have tried our best, it's time to go back home and remove the Spartans from our land. No, said Nicias. You are not throwing away our advantage because of one defeat. What advantage? Interrupted Demosthenes. We have no food, our ships are rotten, and we can't even man all of them. We must leave before we starve or the Syracusans trap us in their harbor. We have hoplites, said Nicias, and I have been getting messages from my informants in the city that Syracusans' fortunes will soon turn. Many of my spies implore us to stay longer because there is a faction within the city that wants to betray Syracuse to us. The crowd murmured and everyone talked amongst themselves. What's going on, Nicias? Demosthenes discreetly asked. You were trying to convince the assembly to end the expedition in your letter. Yes, quietly replied Nicias, trying not to be heard by the men. But I heard both of them. I was sitting pretty close. But you know how these people are like. If we just leave without trying everything, the men will just blame us for being spineless when we return to Athens. I know they're all psychos, whispered Demosthenes. But if we stay here, we will surely die. For now, shouted Nicias, we will stay. Our position is too favorable to abandon it. There was more discussion. The Salamis showed up with routine official business and news. I was walking back to the Melita when my dad pulled me into a tent. Bob was resting on a stretcher Dad must have put him on. Bob's ready to go, Dad said, pushing me to the other end of the stretcher. We're taking him to the Salamis. Some of the wealthier fathers have secured a place for their wounded boys. Don't bring any unneeded attention to us. Some people might rightly get jealous. Bob was out, but breathing comfortably. Dad and I took the long way round so we would be seen less. After a while, Dad just started talking. Did I ever tell you your grandfather rode at Salamis? The ship we're going to is named after the battle. It was an even greater victory against the Persians than Thermopylae. No, I didn't know that, I said. His name was Jericles, Dad continued. It's customary to name kids after their grandfathers. Dad had been avoiding me all my life. I was never told anything about my family. It's quite the revelation for me to learn my grandfather was a rower just like me, and had my name. After the Persians were expelled from Greece, Dad continued, your grandfather's generation went out into the Aegean Sea and forced all the islands to pay for protection from the Persians, whether they wanted to or not. Your grandfather helped to create the largest empire/protection racket Greece had ever known. Money poured into Athens and the economy boomed. With the money he made from rowing, my father gave me a small loan for my first ship, a modest ferry. The family business, Jerry, if I never told you, is transportation. Dad helped to row, and I was the business guy. When I was about yours and Bob's age, I had earned my first talent with the shipping empire I built. It was the time of Pericles the Olympian. He led the empire Dad's generation left us, and we were ready to start our golden age. We rebuilt the Acropolis, even grander than before. There was work, even for the poorest Athenian citizen. No one went hungry. Wars were a summer vacation, blowing Persian ships out of the water with our triremes. It was the happiest time of my life. Yes, before the war with Sparta, we had it all. We thought we could easily stop them with our long walls. This was supposed to be my generation's great war, where we would conquer/bring freedom to Greece. We reached the Salamis and loaded Bob onto the ship. There were a few other lucky rich kids lying in stretchers. Dad bent down, saying goodbye to Bob. Dad and I stepped off the ship, then watched it sail into the orange sunset. Then he continued to speak. We used everything up fighting this war. We exhausted the empire your grandfather helped to build and sacrificed my son's left arm and his future. I wouldn't worry, I said. Bob is going to be alive now, and the war is the best thing that ever happened to me. I achieved my lifelong dream of being a trireme rower. I have a group of friends now, for the first time ever. And now, because of the war, there's a future for me. Without it, I wouldn't be able to make the same money or live the same life I wanted without it. Dad didn't say anything, he just gave me a look of horror that could only be described as a man seeing his ultimate fears coming true. Not only that, I continued, I have been able to reconnect with my family. Oh, right, said Dad. You know, Bob will never become a strategos. Athens is a vicious place. The ancient world is a vicious place. They would never allow an amputee to run for office. He's still rich, I said. He can buy a politician to use as a proxy. Yeah, said Dad, a little comforted. I'll have at least left him with a huge advantage over 98% of the population. The Melita and the rest of the fleet will soon be following Bob. We should be withdrawing from Sicily soon. Third summer entry, third year. Dear Journal, enemy reinforcements have been streaming into the harbor every day. We were delayed for days because half of us were sick with some Sicilian disease. I was all yellow and felt miserable. We regretted not leaving earlier, and, despite our illness, the fleet prepared to leave in secret during a full moon. This might have been our last chance to escape Syracuse before they got wise and blockaded the exit. Unfortunately, right before we left that night, there was a lunar eclipse. The superstitious Nicias took the advice of a soothsayer who suggested waiting another 4 weeks. Everyone was so sick, no one fought the postponement. A few days later, the enemy chained together a series of ships and blocked the harbor's exit. So there's a floating wall which now blocks our way to freedom. There's a chance I may not get out of here. 30. Fourth summer entry, third year. Dear Journal, Nicias called everyone together and gave us the plan. We will be fighting a land battle on sea, began Nicias. The number of enemy ships combined with the triremes we can man, there will be 200 ships fighting in that small space. There will be almost no room to maneuver. Our only way out is beyond the wooden barrier. We are going to ram the barrier with our triremes until it breaks. A few ships will do this while the rest of the fleet protects them. Because it will be so tight in the harbor, more hoplites, archers, and javelin throwers can be placed on board the triremes. I will lead the fleet in the harbor. Demosthenes will protect our base with a detachment of hoplites. Prepare your ships and yourselves tonight. The attack begins tomorrow. We spent the rest of the day fixing up the ship and getting our weapons gathered together. The Melita felt very empty now, especially after our prisoners escaped. I miss those guys. There are only 50 or so of us now. I was talking to my dad, I said, and he told me he started his business with a small ship he bought. I think we could do the same. You mean start a ferry business? Asked Dino. Or transporting cargo, I said. We don't have war booty, but we do have our wages, which should be enough for a down payment on a ship, and we would save money by rowing it ourselves. A little shipping company, said Archie. I love it. In wartime, they need lots of ships to transport weapons and food. We'll expand in no time. I really need the job, said Humongulus. I won't be bringing much back home. All my brothers can help row too, said Dino. Best of all, I said, I'm a Nepo baby, so my dad will bail us out if we get in financial trouble. Dad then appeared, looking like he wanted to say something. He pulled me alongside. "I'm not going to fool around anymore, Jerry," said Dad. "When the battle is over and we get home, I will adopt you." That's all he said, and he went back to his trierarch duties. My life is falling into place. All I have to do is survive tomorrow. 31. 5th summer entry, 3rd year. Dear Journal, I slept very little. I ate as much as I could. I needed the energy for rowing, even if my stomach was too scared to accept food. We launched the Melita into the harbor for the last time. I followed all the rowing commands. It took us some time to maneuver our beloved trireme because half the crew was shoved in from other ships. There wasn't enough rowers for every trireme. We manned as many as we could. I was down below and could not see anything like always. Nicias gave a speech. "Even though our situation is grim," said Nicias, not beginning with a joke, "don't let that discourage you. Not now, when courage is exactly what you need to survive. Remember, we are Athenians and possess the greatest navy in the world." The speeches ended and the horns blew. The battle had begun. The Melita didn't do much at first. I heard wood crashing against wood. Judging by the groans of the crowd, we weren't having any luck with the barrier. There was fighting somewhere. Thousands of men were shouting. "Look, a clear path!" shouted Dad from above. "Ram that ship before the gap closes!" Our ship's drums thumped as we performed our maneuvers, pointing the needle-nosed prow of the ship towards the enemy. Then we rowed our hearts out. Dino, Archie, Humongulus, and I were in perfect sync as usual. The Melita reached maximum speed. I think we were going faster than we ever had before. My hands left the oar as my body violently rose to the roof of the trireme. Then I bounced off the top and slammed into the ship that rammed into us. My eyes met the eyes of a familiar winged lady, the goddess Nike, that protrude from our rival's ship. It was the Nike that hit us. I fell through the Melita's cracked hull and into the water. I was under the ship. I didn't see what happened to my other rowmates. I tried to swim to the surface, but my leg was caught on a rope, and I discovered I couldn't move my legs. My left one was bleeding bad. At the time, I thought I was going to die, but I wouldn't be writing this if I did. My own personal Heracles rescued me. Dino swiftly cut the rope holding my leg with his knife. I was then escorted to the surface, where I gratefully gasped for air. We hung off of a log. Dino was on top of me. This was so he could propel us with his legs. Mine were still unserviceable. For a moment, I thought a rain cloud had burst, but the raindrops were actually arrows and javelins. We weathered the storm, though. Nothing hit us. I was feeling like everything was going to be fine, probably because of my massive blood loss. I passed out for a little bit. When I woke up, I was on the beach. The sun hadn't moved much, and I discovered my bloody leg was patched up. "Good, you're alive," I heard an out-of-breath Dino say. "You were the only one I could save." He had half a mustache ripped off his face and was slumped over the log we swam to safety on. He looked like a grotesque porcupine with many arrows and javelins stuck in his back. Turns out he had protected me from that hail of missiles. "Do you know what happened?" I asked. "The Nike hit us and sunk us," Dino began. "Our paths must have crossed in that small harbor. Clearly an accident." "What happened to Archie and Humongulus?" I asked. "The Nike directly hit Humongulus' station and..." Dino broke off. It must have been gruesome. "Archie was crushed by the debris. I couldn't save him, but I found you." What about my dad?" "No." "Anyone else survived?" I asked. "Just you," he said. And you, Dino." "Dino?" Ah, crap. Only a few hundred words earlier, I was living in a golden future. Now, everyone I know is dead. The beach was full of washed up men and wood. Did not look like we won. Ships and wounded fighters streamed back onto the beach. My legs had a little movement now, so I crawled. The sun was steadily falling behind the horizon. "What the heck are you doing, Jerry?" a familiar voice complained. "Oh, I'm just crawling around the beach until the shock wears off and I go insane." "What are you doing, Dad? I was told you're dead." "Unfortunately," said Dad, "I am only a figment of your imagination. However, this means as long as you remember me, I will never be truly dead. So, don't forget me or I'll die." "I won't, Dad." "I'm not fooling around, Jerry," said Dad's voice. "This is life and death. Remember me, damn it!" "I will." "Oh, yeah, this also means I'm not adopting you anymore," the voice said apologetically. "Not that I don't want to. I'm just a memory now and have no legal standing." "I understand," I said.